I want to talk just a little bit about positive and negative exponents. Okay, what do we get if we multiply 3x squared by 4x to the negative 5? Well, people are a little, uncertain about this. 3 times 4 is 12, and there's good reason to be uncertain. It's probably been a while since you've done this, and you probably did it by memorizing rather than understanding formulas. Now, I'm just going to assert the results here, but we're going to work then later to develop the reasons behind these formulas, which are not difficult to understand, and it makes it much easier to understand the rules. Okay, so 3 times 4 is 12. X squared times x to the negative 5. How do you multiply different powers of the same quantity? Well, you add the powers. And everybody pretty much knows this. Everybody's familiar with it. Somebody said it. Other people nodded in a way that made me think that everybody understood it. If they didn't understand it, that all of a sudden brought it back to them. Anyhow, x squared times x to the negative 5, that should be x to the 2 minus 5. 2 minus 5 being negative 3. The result then is 12x to the negative 3. Well, what does this x to the negative 3 mean? Well, it means reciprocal of x cubed. Now, somebody said something about the 1/3 power, the cube root, or something like that. I think I said the 1/3 power, and we're going to address that right here. But in this case, the negative power means that you do the reciprocal of the absolute value of that power. So it's 12 over x cubed. And I think people are familiar with that. I don't think people have too much trouble with it. It's just you might be a little fuzzy on those rules. Okay? Since we want to comment on the fractional exponent, the x to the 1/3, what's that mean? Well, I'm saying that x to the 1/3 means the cube root of x. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because x to the 1/3 times x to the 1/3 times x to the 1/3 is x to the 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 if we accept the rule where we add exponents, and that adds up, the 1/3s add up to 1, so we have x to the 1, that's just x. So x to the 1/3 multiplied by itself 2 more times, in other words, 3 copies of x to the 1/3 multiplied together give you x. Well, isn't that exactly what a cube root of x would be? The number which, when multiplied 3 times by itself, gives you x. That's exactly what we mean by the cube root, and that's why x to the 1/3 is the cube root. And there's a very simple and straightforward reason that I didn't talk about, but I might as well just mention. We'll mention it again in class. Why you add exponents, and I'm not going to do with negative exponents. Let's just say x squared times x cubed means what? X squared means x times x. X cubed means x times x times x. And that's then x times x times x times x times x, which is x to the 5th. You're multiplying 2 x's together to get x squared. You're multiplying 3 of them to get x cubed. So you're going to have 5 of them, which gives you x to the 5th. Now, if our laws are going to be consistent, and we'll talk about this in much more detail, if our laws are going to be consistent, then the negative power has to stand for the reciprocal thing. And I'm not going to put that into a clear, coherent statement because we'll have to talk about it a little more. But there's a sense of this law follows from this one in a way that we can bring together a little bit later. And this one just follows from the common sense of this law, or this rule for exponents. We'll develop this again in much more detail.